the Rurik Jutting case didn't end with a conviction. In fact, many believe the trial only scratched the surface. Because behind the court verdict, behind the life sentence, investigators uncovered clues that suggested a darker possibility. What if Jutting wasn't acting completely alone? At first, it sounded impossible. A lone man in a Hong Kong high-rise, recording his crimes in secret, seemed straightforward enough. But when forensic teams combed through his phones, laptops, and hard drives, they found fragments, deleted files, encrypted folders, conversations that hinted at something more. And the deeper they dug, the stranger the inconsistencies became. Investigators expected to see a clear digital trail, a man spiraling into obsession, leaving behind searches, videos, maybe even confession notes. But what they found wasn't clean. Whole sections of his devices had been wiped. Some files were scrambled with encryption so advanced, even cyber experts couldn't unlock them. And in the spaces that remained, there were whispers, mentions of other names, cryptic references to dark online communities. The chilling thought emerged. What if Jutting wasn't just documenting for himself? What if he was performing? What if someone, somewhere was watching? Colleagues in London described Jutting as brilliant but erratic. Some remembered offhand comments he made about violent fantasies, comments brushed off as dark jokes. Others recalled him spending late nights glued to his phone, obsessing over things he never spoke about. Was he connecting with people who shared his darkest thoughts? Or was it all a delusion? Then came the twist that left investigators unsettled. Buried in his notes were outlines, fantasies that matched real-world events almost too closely, descriptions of methods, references to locations. Some lined up with crimes far from Hong Kong, cases still unsolved. Could it be coincidence? Or was Jutting trying to hint at a larger network of violence that extended beyond his own apartment? The inconsistencies piled up. One set of notes described a victim with details that didn't match either the women he killed. Another file mentioned a third meeting that police could never verify. Was there another victim? Or was it part of his imagination, a fantasy he never acted on? Investigators couldn't say for sure, and that uncertainty lingers like a shadow. During the trial, these threads were barely touched. Prosecutors focused on what they could prove: the murders of Sumarti Ningsih and Seneng Mujiasih. That was enough to lock Jutting away for life. But behind the scenes, detectives wrestled with unanswered questions. Why the wiped files? Why the encryption? Why references to names that didn't belong to anyone in his known circle? When journalists pressed the police, officials stayed quiet. Some admitted off-record that there were elements of the case that would never be fully explained. One investigator described the digital evidence as an iceberg. What the court saw was only the tip. What lay beneath, he said, was darker than most people could imagine. And then there's Jutting himself. In prison, he gave interviews where he alternated between remorse and defiance. At times, he admitted his guilt openly, describing himself as a monster. At other times, he deflected, insisting his addictions and mental health struggles drove him to act. But in one chilling statement, he admitted something more. He had planned to continue. He said the two murders weren't the end. They were only the beginning. That confession raises the most terrifying question of all. How many more lives would have been lost if he hadn't been caught when he was? And more importantly, was anyone else ready to continue in his place? Experts in criminal psychology argue that Jutting represents a new kind of danger, not the serial killer of old, hunting in alleys and back roads, but the modern predator, using wealth, status, and digital tools to mask his darkness. They warn that online communities can feed these urges, creating echo chambers where violent fantasies are encouraged, not stopped. And if Jutting was part of that world, it suggests the story is bigger than one man. The scariest part? We may never know the full truth, because many of the files on his devices remain locked. Some were deliberately destroyed, and the fragments left behind only deepen the mystery. Was there a third victim? Was there a hidden audience? Or was Jutting simply writing fiction, violent, horrifying fiction, that blurred into reality? In the end, the conviction gave the families of Sumarti and Seneng some measure of justice. But it didn't answer the larger questions. It didn't explain the wiped files, It didn't explain the encrypted folders. And it didn't explain why a man who had everything, wealth, education, privilege, would throw it all away for something so monstrous. The truth may still be hidden in those devices, locked behind codes only Jutting knows. And if he was connected to others, it means those people could still be out there, hidden, waiting. The Rurik Jutting case isn't just a story of one man's crimes. It's a reminder of how evil can hide in plain sight, how technology can conceal as much as it reveals, and how sometimes the most terrifying part of crime isn't what we know, it's what we don't. And the unanswered questions leave one chilling thought. If Rurik Jutting hadn't been caught, how far would he have gone? And if he wasn't alone, who else is still out there? Part 3, coming soon.